All right, folks, we'll get started. You're all aware this is the maintenance class. Thank you. Appreciate y'all showing up. This is Joyce Blowers. I would venture guess the majority of you know Joyce, but she knows more about automation than I'm ever going to know. So if you guys have any automation questions, you can grab her after the class. I think what we're going to do, we're going to run you through some specific stuff, but we're also going to leave it open for question and answer. So if you have something that you really want to know, we can take care of that then. So, you want to start, Joyce?
Sure. Do you want to go through those?
Yep,
first?
let's go through that. I think everybody has one.
Okay, so in your packet you have an essential care guide with a checklist. That has some very basic information on taking care of your system, your machine. Just to quickly go through these pages. Maintaining your quilting machine is crucial for ensuring smooth and flawless stitching. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
She can't hear. They can't hear back there.
I'm a big proponent of making sure that maintenance is part of what you do, and I have videos out there on it. And anytime I talk with anybody, it's really, really important. You're working with a machine, okay? Machines need to be taken care of. And if they're properly taken care of and properly maintained, they will work for you for a long, long, long time without any issues at all. So in your guide, there's a monthly maintenance checklist for quilting machines. These are things that you should do on a regular basis. You know, it's not just the machine, you have a whole system that you need to take care of. And that includes the machine, your frame. Key things on your frame for making sure that it's going.
You want to move up here? Come on up here.
Maybe you're rolling over top of a thread and it feels like you're rolling over a stone. Okay? Take a microfiber cloth, put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on it, clean that off. If you have IntelliQuilter automation, make sure that the surface that your drive wheel is rolling on is also clean every single time you use your automation system. And one other thing here that's not on here, this talks about removing the lint and the dust, checking your thread guides. On the next page, head maintenance, things like
You guys
that.
you guys are fine because I can go up that way.
Removing the plate, like the throat plate. It's always a good idea to look down every once in a while from the top into the top of the hook. And I honestly recommend using canned air because you can blow things out a lot better than using a brush, and trying to get up in there. Oiling. Key. Oiling is key. The dots on the top of your machine are actually oil wicks. 1 drop every 8 hours. So you can keep track of those hours on the older machines, do a little check off list. Now it's 8 hours of actually running the machine, not 8 hours of standing in front of your machine. Okay? There's a difference because all of your time in front of your machine, it's not running because you're moving it around, you're setting it up, So 8 hours of run time. So Scott, what do we do with the new ones?
With the new ones?
Yeah, the new machines.
So the new machines, if you have one of those, they will track that 8 hours of run time for you. It's built into the software. It knows when the machine's running and it knows when it's not. When the 8 hours hits, you'll get a splash screen that says, hey, it's time to oil the machine, okay? When you're done oiling the machine, you'll hit the reset button, that'll go away. That's on the flare, the Alara, and the diamond. So, yes, ma'am.
Can you oil it while you have a quilt on it? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, don't get oil.
I mean, it's up to you to keep it off the quilt, but
Yep, just roll it to the side, oil the top.
Okay.
And the other place that is really, really important to oil is your hook. So the key tips for oiling the hook. Now the hook is down here where you put your bobbin case in. All right.
I don't know if you can
When
see it
you're
or
going
not.
to oil down here, remove the bobbin case. Remove
I don't know if you
the
can see her.
bobbin, all right? It's important to turn the hand wheel or use your down button so that the hook shield, which is, if you look down there, there's a little thing that comes down like this, comes to the bottom, and that becomes a little ledge that you can lay your, we don't have an oiler here, but just lay your oiler on that. Oh yes, there's one right there.
Oh.
Yep, so the hook shield comes to the bottom, just slide the oiler on, and like my thumb is right here, there's a little ledge, part of the hook assembly is behind it, so just go up, butt up against that, and put a couple of drops of oil on it. You want to make sure that you definitely have oil there. If you don't, it gets hard for it to work. It may not stitch properly because it's straining to do that. As in my case years ago, I thought I was oiling it. The oiler I was using wasn't putting oil out, and I actually seized it up. And when I went out to the shop and got my husband and said, it seized up on me, the first thing he said is, you haven't been oiling, have you? I said, yes, I have. And so when we went back in the house, I took my little oiler and held my finger like this and squeezed on it, and like nothing came out. So indeed, I had not been oiling it when I thought I was. So look and make sure that you have actually put some oil there. That's really, really important to keep it not only lubricated, just to keep it lubricated, but for proper stitching as well.
Absolutely. Just a side note on this, she just told you to oil it. She also told you to clean it. The oil that you put in the hook, the second you start the machine, a certain amount of that oil gets slung off. So it gets oily down there. All thread sheds. As you stitch with it, it sheds fibers. You have to get in there and clean that often. You'd be amazed how fast that gets gummed up with fuzz and oil and everything else. And the hooks are steel on steel. There's no bearing in them. They're super precision, and they have to be oiled. They get warm, they'll expand, and they'll freeze up on you, and then you got a much bigger problem.
So my recommendation is every time you take the bobbin case out to put a new bobbin in, blow it out with canned air. On the new machines that have the light down here, the diamond, be careful about blowing the air towards that, blow it the other direction. Take the throat plate off every once in a while, clean it out from the top, because you have a different angle on it and you can get down in there and get the fuzz out of in there. But you do get a lot of fuzz up in there, so every bobbin change, clean out the hook, and every other bobbin change, make sure you put oil on it, and then it'll keep working well.
Blowing canned air won't shove the dust
Nope,
back
there's
into
no,
anything,
there's no way it can get in there. Everything is sealed off,
Yep.
even when you come down from
even
the
when
top.
you come down.
Right.
Yep.
Just a side note on the bobbin light. The bobbin lights are all conformally coated, so they will, they're oil proof, if you will. There's also a diffuser cover on there that will help keep it clean as well. So she's right, don't spray right at it, but don't get too concerned when you're cleaning out under there. You should be fine.
Yep. So quilting is a very linty, dusty business. You know, you may discover that, you know, you got like a little haze on things from the lint and the dust, and you have these little dust bunnies growing under your frame. All right, it happens all the time. So they drop off everywhere. Clean your tracks off, clean the inside of your tracks of your frame and your carriage, because you've got rolling wheels in there as well. Something that I always do on a regular basis as well is I always check my axles up near the front of the machine. So the front axles on the machine and the axles, the wheels on my carriage, because if anybody cut their thread on the bottom of their quilt, but yeah, even if you clip them on the top, occasionally threads will drop down and they can easily get wrapped around those axle wheels and cause a problem. So always look there as well. Anybody with Quilt Magic automation here? Something to always check on a very regular basis is to make sure that there's no thread that's getting wrapped around the gear in the front or the horizontal belt. Push the machine back, look down in there, and you might go, oh, looks okay. Get a flashlight and look, because you might be seeing pink or purple or blue, that's thread, okay? Get some tweezers and start pulling it out, because eventually that will really restrict the horizontal movement of that. And if you go to move your machine like this, you'll really feel it not moving very well.
And depending on how long you've waited to do this, you'll be pulling it out and pulling it out and pulling it out and pulling it out. I had a gal back here and she didn't want to pay our hourly rate to clean it. It took her 6 hours.
Oh my.
You can't just take it apart and unwrap the thread. You have to be very careful and pull it out. Yeah, you come up here. We got room.
Okay. The page on the bobbin here and the bobbin case. So bobbins, Scott and I may differ a little bit on what we think about this, but the bobbin case is merely a vessel to hold the bobbin. Now that being said, you want to make sure that the bobbin fits good in the bobbin case. When you're pulling your thread off, if you see that bobbin hitting the side of the bobbin case, don't necessarily throw the bobbin away. The bobbin case can be adjusted. In my book, I have a little thing on how to adjust the bobbin case. And most anybody can do it. You don't have to be a big, strong person to do it. But bobbin cases occasionally get out of round because you dropped it. And they always seem to drop with this open end down.
Jelly side down every time.
Yeah. And when that happens, these little flaps here might get compressed in a little bit, so that when you put the next bobbin in and you pull, it's like doesn't pull smoothly. And if you look at this side of it, when you're pulling on the bobbin thread, if you're pulling on it like this and you see it and it kind of gets caught, you know. So you can fix those. You don't need to spend $80 to buy a new bobbin case. Not that
I
Quilting
agree.
wouldn't be happy to sell you one, but
2 at a time. That's all we do.
yeah. You can hold it like this and just put your thumb in here and push out as hard as you can. You are not going to break it. Even the strong guys, well, I don't know about that. But anyway, they can push out, you can push out, and then just move it over and push out on the other side as well. And you'd be amazed at how much, it doesn't take much, little more space to make it work. But you can kind of fix that yourself. And you can do the same thing with the L bobbin cases. It's a little bit harder to do, but you can do that. And then you just saved yourself $80.
Just for the record, we do not differ on that opinion.
Thank you.
I do it often.
Yeah.
I've dropped a lot of bobbin cases.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and if you have a hard floor instead of a carpeted floor
Yep.
or padding, you can just about count on it happening on you.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, there will be a bobbin that is damaged. I found one the other day at my house, and I'm not sure how it had it, but it had like a sharp edge, so whether it fell on the floor and bumped something, and so that one I probably will get rid of because it's on the flat side where the holes are. And I'm thinking when that turns, when that spins inside my bobbin case, that may actually catch, if it's that side is in, on the chuck spring that is in there, and it may not spin as smoothly as it
Right.
should. So that one I probably will throw out.
So if you're winding a bobbin, have you ever had one explode?
Yep.
So should you not wind it way full?
No, it's not so much of that. You can put too much tension on the thread and blow the side. You can blow the ends off. Obviously, when we wind a bobbin, we want it to be hard. You press a thumbnail in it, you want it to be hard. But you can wind them too tight. So I would back off the tension a little bit. I've taken the sides off them before too. So.
Yep. I had a customer do that, and she saved it for me. I took a picture of it, and it just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would say is, if any of you happen to use the monofilament thread in your bobbin, winding it, do not wind it any bigger than half full, because that puts a lot of pressure. That can explode a metal bobbin without even blinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Next page in here, daily maintenance. So we've talked about monthly things. And if you're not quilting that much every month, maybe every month, but those are regular things to check every time. The next one is daily checklist as you're actually using the machine on an everyday basis. So my recommendation is every time before you use your system, wipe down your frame. Make sure it's in the tracks, it's clean. Inspect your needle. How often should the needle be replaced?
8 hours.
About every 8 hours. How often should you oil the wicks?
8 hours.
Every 8 hours. Okay? So you can kind of do those things together. If you're going to be starting a large project like a big quilt and you don't remember when the last time was you changed the needle, it might be a good idea to change the needle. Okay?
I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
I'm not a quilter, okay? I'm a tech guy. How long does it take to quilt a king-size quilt on the average?
Not 8 hours.
Okay, no, but if you did it start to finish. Okay, that's too many variables. So I have always told people change the needle about the equivalent of a king-size quilt. So and I have no problem 8 hours king-size quilt, whatever it may be, whatever's correct. I was just curious. So
Yeah, no, it is. You might have it on the frame all day long and be quilting at least
Sure.
6 hours on
Okay.
it. And if you did custom on it, it would be on your frame for several days. But yeah.
Or weeks.
So like you just said, if you have a quilt and you work on it for 6 hours and you quit, and come back the next day, do you start up and oil again, or do you make it 2 more hours and then you oil?
No, because all that 6 hours that you're standing at the frame, the machine is not working all of that time.
No, but let's say you are sewing,
Yep.
quilting for 6 hours.
Yep. So if you are, no, not necessarily. Yeah, your machine can go a little longer than 8 hours, on it. One of the things about oiling the top is, and I think Scott would agree with me, is if you oil it too often, that oil, there's too much on those wicks in there, and it's just going to drop off, and you might end up with a puddle. I took one machine in trade, and she was very fastidious about her oiling. She was over fastidious about her oiling, and there was literally a little pool in the bottom of the head because there was too much oil. Now what can happen with that is if you have too much, it may actually come dripping down your needle,
I've had
the
to
needle
drop
bar.
on the floor.
And you don't want you don't want oil to come down on top of your
you said you had a drop on the floor. That could potentially be from the gearbox cover down here.
Yeah.
We use a lithium type grease and it has an oil additive in it, but over time that separates a little bit. So, and also if there's a little bit more grease than the height of the hook shaft bushing, sometimes it'll come out that hook shaft bushing. And it'll quit doing it as soon as that drops.
I did, but I thought I was over oiling.
No.
It probably was the oil from the gearbox.
Yeah. So the best thing to do, especially on a new machine, is periodically take a piece of batting or something and just wipe that off at the bottom as a regular part of your cleaning procedure. And eventually, as the machine gets older, you don't have that happening. So the needles, of course, if there's damage to the needle, replace that. The other time you may replace your needle sooner than you think you need to is if you start getting some thread, some stitch quality issues. If the thread is shredding a little bit, it might be because of the needle. And the other thing is, needles are manufactured. They're not all perfect when you get them. You may put a needle in and it's not sewing right for you. They only cost about 50 cents. Throw it away. Replace it. Don't try fussing around with it because it might be the needle is the problem, the only problem that you have.
Right. I've seen burrs in the eye of the needle, brand new right out of the case. I've also seen bent needles, brand new right out of the case. So you got to kind of watch when you're replacing your needle.
And the manufacturing process of needles, they go through about 100 separate steps to go from a piece of metal to what you have in the package. You can go online and look on YouTube. A lot of cool things on there. I looked on one on how they manufacture sewing needles. Very interesting. Some of those things are just punched, so when it's punched through, It wasn't smoothed off.
Right.
Yep,
Joyce,
yes.
would you speak to ballpoint needles versus?
So the standard needle that you will use most of the time is just called that. It's a standard needle, and the point on it is like this. It's a sharp point, similar to a sharp needle that you would buy to put in your home sewing machine. So it's V-shaped like this, and then the eye is like right up here. That works for most of our quilting, but there are some fabrics that we sew with, that we quilt with, that can be challenging for that needle to produce a hole big enough to carry the thread from here, make the loop down here in time so that the hook can pick it up. Our solution for that is to replace the needle with a ballpoint needle, which instead of being pointed like this has a little ball on it and pushes the fibers aside sooner. Creates the hole so that you can get the loop down there to be picked up by the hook. So that would be batik fabrics for sure. Somebody was telling in the class we did yesterday that there is a higher thread count fabric that's now being used in quilting. I don't remember. That was you.
Yeah, so I have a shop. And so Moda, with their collections, when they have 108-inch fabrics, they're using 200 thread count for the backing fabrics
Versus what?
versus 60 by 60, so 120 for the normal. And it has a silky feel. They call them silkies. And so if you're a Moda fan, it's like Kansas Troubles, Camille, Roskley, any of the collections that have designer prints that come in, they're going to be silkies. You're going to feel the difference. And it's denser, so it's harder to sew on. And when you're sewing your binding, you're going to notice it if you hand sew them. And if you're hand quilting, you're definitely going to notice. But it's also shinier. It's like a satiny shine. And so you don't want to use your leftovers when you piece your next quilt because it'll look different. Or if you do, you just know that it's going to look different.
Yep. So just be aware that
It's
there
the
are
reasoning.
fabrics that are not the same thread count, and that's about almost double what a normal quilting cotton would have. Anytime that I run into an issue where I have inconsistent stitch quality, like it's stitching good here and then here it's not, here it's good, here it's not, I don't first think about, oh, I need to adjust my intention. I'm looking at the fabric, and if it's consistently over the same type of fabric, the same pattern of fabric, it is the fabric that is the issue. And so right away I switched to a ballpoint needle because your needle needs to be for the worst fabric, the hardest fabric to sew in your project. So if you have batik as a backing, go to, it's not on the top, just your backing, you need a ballpoint needle. If you've got batik patches in your quilt along with regular quilting cotton, put the ballpoint needle in. Go for the hardest one that's going to sew for you and change your needle right up front. And also one more thing on that is, when you use a ballpoint needle, you're going to use the same size needle. So if you're using a size 20, it's going to be a size 20 ballpoint that you're going to put in. Yes.
Minky, is ballpoint good for minky? Everybody likes to put minky at the bottom of their quilt.
Yep. Yep. Minky is a knit type of fabric with stretch, and so yes, you can use it with that because again, it needs to push the fibers aside. And anybody that sews garments and ever sewn a T-shirt, you're going to use a ballpoint needle. It's a slightly different style than what we use in the Longarm. But you don't want a sharp needle. You want a needle that's going to push it aside. Well, because T-shirt stretches and the minky stretches, you got to get the hole in there so that the thread can go through. Yep.
And there are different size ball point needles as far as the ball profile goes.
Yes, and that's true. There's different size ballpoint balls that you can get them on. The one that we use, I think, is called a light ball. So
if you look at a Gross Beckert data sheet, I believe there are 3 different profiles. If you look at a Gross-Beckert data sheet, which is where we get our needles, there's a fine point, a medium point, and a large point in the ball point. So just keep that in mind. If you were using a ball point but it doesn't seem to be performing for you, you might need to change the profile of the tip. And we carry those. We don't carry a lot of them, but we can certainly get anything you need.
The next one is tension. Does anyone ever have a tension issue? I don't mean this kind of tension right here.
That's my tension issue.
Yeah, it's a tension with your machine. Anybody with a tension issue? Okay, so we're going to spend a few minutes here talking on tension, right?
I wish we had a little camera I could point, but you know where the upper tension assembly is? Are we all good with that? Okay. And you know that you lessen the tension counterclockwise, you tighten the tension clockwise, right? The other thing about the upper tension assembly is that thread is going through 2 polished discs and they leave what looks like a V. That's where it goes. If those, and this happens, and it happens often, as that thread goes through there, it polishes the inside of those discs. At some point when it's polished enough, what will happen a lot of times is it will spit the thread out to the back side of that tension assembly. If you're sewing along and all of a sudden you've got a bird's nest on the bottom, likely your tension is gone. First place to check is to make sure it didn't spit it out of the tension assembly. Did it spit it out? If the answer is yes, you can revive these. If you take the tension assembly apart, take very fine sandpaper, I'm talking 400, 600 grit, lay it on a flat surface, carefully take the tension disc with the thread contact side down, take 2 fingers and just do a light circular pattern. Pick it up and look at it. If you see scratch marks in a circular pattern, you've put a little bit of a profile back on that and it should revive your tension assembly. Or obviously you can replace it. Costs more money, but your choice. Do you know how to set the tension on the bobbin case? Does anybody? Okay, it is the little screw. However, here's an M. This is going to be really hard because you guys can't see this. There is it's basically a leaf spring that wraps partway around the bobbin case. I know you can't see that from here. Point is, there's 2 screws on that leaf spring. The small screw at the very end, that's what attaches that spring. Don't mess with that screw. The big screw next to it adjusts the tension on the bobbin case. M bobbins, bigger bobbin, you can turn the screw a little bit more either way and have less result. L's, small bobbin, a little bit is all it takes, okay? Now, she's going to talk about the toe gauge.
It's like you're looking at it like a clock face, and it's like 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit is like 1 minute.
Mm-hmm. On the L's, a little is a lot, okay? She's going to talk about the toe gauge. I don't use one, being a tech guy back here. What I do, 2 things. Hold the bobbin in your hand like this so you can see the back of the bobbin case, I'm sorry, so you can see the back of the bobbin. Pull on the thread. Always needs to be turning clockwise. When you go to put it in the machine, that's the direction it needs to be turning. So if you lay it in your hand like this and grab the thread and pull up on it, I want this to stand up, maybe lift off your hand, but to slowly drop back down. That's a starting point for the bobbin tension, okay? The stitch is always going to tell you if it's right, but that's a good place to start. And that's for both bobbins, large and small.
So this is the bobbin case that came out of here. When you are cleaning, blowing this out down here to get the dust out of here, blow the inside of your bobbin case out too, because it gets lint in here. It can build up in here. Somebody told me a story of something that happened a long time ago at Quilting here, way before you were here. Somebody called in and she had taken the bobbin out of her bobbin case and this felt thing fell on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so she called Quilting, like, it fell on the floor and I can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you carry those felt things that go inside the bobbin case?
Mm-hmm.
It was, it was all the lint that was built up there. It kind of felt it together.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, blow this out as well because you'll get it out. Occasionally, I open up the little lever here, hold that open, and blow down behind the chuck spring in here. So inside your bobbin case is a chuck spring. In the M bobbin, it's sort of like an oval, and in the L bobbin, it's like a J. It's shaped like a J.
Correct.
What's the purpose of that, Scott?
That's so when your machine stops dead, it doesn't backspin.
Yeah.
So your bobbin doesn't, if you're stitching along the bobbin spinning 100 mile an hour, right? You stop dead, you don't want that bobbin to continue to go. It's gonna backlash, it's gonna make a bird's nest, and you won't be stitching from that point forward until you fix the problem.
Backlash spring in there, that chuck spring. What happens, this keeps going, like you said, and then you end up with loose thread on your bobbin. And as you start stitching, it's got to stitch all that loose thread out before it can start pulling it really through the tensioner on your bobbin case. So you end up with a little waist where it looks loose. It doesn't look like the rest of it. So yeah, that's an important part in there. And those can be replaced. They will fatigue after a while, long time, and they can be replaced. There's a little tiny screw in there. If you ever take it out.
Is that the L? Yeah. No, that's an M.
Yeah. If you ever take that little screw out, do it over a bowl or something, because if you drop it, goodbye. You will never find it.
That is a fact.
Yes. So holding your bobbin like this, when you put it in the bobbin case, I hold it like this. I pull the thread off the top to the right, and I know it's going to be going clockwise. I drop it in the bobbin case, pull it back into the slot, and under the spring, and you'll hear it kind of snap into that spot. The M bobbin case is a little bit different. There is a little piggy tail right here above the lever door. Your thread needs to be wound around that, so you twirl it around a few times. Now the L bobbin doesn't have that. The reason for this is it centers this right underneath the needle hole, the plate, the hole in the needle plate, so that it holds it right under center like that. So what Scott was saying, put it in your hand like this, pull on this so that it comes up. Whoops, that came right out of my bobbin case. So we start over, back, under, twirl it around. So it needs to stand up in your hand, pull it up, and this one actually has got quite a bit of tension in it, but it's balanced for this particular machine. One of the best ways, when I was first starting long arm quilting, and I've been sewing since I was a long time. Tension can be one of the biggest learning curves of long arm quilting. And when people ask me, is it going to take me a long time to learn how to quilt? No, probably not. You'll probably be more comfortable with that before you're comfortable with setting the tension. Okay? And the reason for quilters it's hard is because our machines that we use at home, we typically don't touch the tension. You don't ever have to do that. When you're quilting on a long arm, you have a number of variables that are always constantly changing from one project to the next. The backing is different, the batting might be a different one. Certainly the fabrics on the top of your quilt are going to be different. Another factor is, today I'm using pink glide thread, tomorrow I'm using white cotton thread. You know, that's another variable. And one that you may not even think about is the weather is different. And that affects everything as well, especially cotton, which can absorb moisture right out of the air. So those things are all working against you with everything. So that's going to affect the tension on your machine, all of those things combined together. So I found years ago that using a tool like this, the Toa bobbin gauge, and always checking my tension in it and setting it to the same number regardless of the thread that I have in my bobbin that day. I start with a baseline on the bottom end of my machine, and then all I need to do is tweak the tension at the top until I have a balanced stitch. With every single project you do, every time you replace your bobbin, you always should check your tension at the side of your project. okay? One reason is one bobbin might be wound a little bit tighter than another one. All right, so that's another little variable in there. So always check. So the way to use the toa gauge, you're going to have your bobbin in the bobbin case threaded normally, like this. Unlike putting it in the machine with a lever door horizontal, you have to turn it vertical because this little knob right there has to go into that little, what do you call that? That little thing there.
Don't know. I don't use the toa gauge.
That little,
Oh, the little fork?
yeah, there's a little fork there. Thank you. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, you push it in and you're going to snap it in just like you snap it into your machine. On here, there's two pulleys, one down here, one up here. It's going to go under this pulley, over the top of this one, and then through that guide right there. And then you're going to set it on a flat surface so it doesn't wiggle around on you. And you're going to pull the thread and read the number. What's it reading, Wendy? Oh,
all the way down.
Yeah.
all the way to the bottom?
Yeah.
Oh, tension is too tight on this. That means
It's right out of the box.
well,
No, I got you.
has nothing to do with it.
No, I got you. Oh,
So-
yes, ma'am. What's that? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so for this machine right here and this particular tension assembly, I've been setting this to about 250 with the M bobbin, and then adjusting this to balance that stitch. So this is reading way too high. It really is. That's why it lifted off of my hand and wouldn't come down. It is too high. So while this is actually in the gauge, do you have a little screwdriver that works with this?
I don't know. I have this one and a little
Yep,
bit bigger
that
one.
might work. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So this is reading too high. I'm going to put it into the big screw, and I'm going to turn it like maybe 5 minutes on the dial.
To the left.
Depending on the tension assembly that's on the side, I would say anywhere from like 75 to 150 would be the range, my base range to start at to see what I've got.
For an
So now
L.
I've got this adjusted. What's it reading now?
About 250.
Do you
Oh,
think
250.
that all bobbins, pre-wands,
So the pre-wound ones, right here.
Hey, you know, that's not that uncommon. I took a machine to deliver it one time and never snapped the thread off the frame. I took it out, put it in the van, and I don't know how far it went before it broke, but it probably went quite a ways. Yep, there you go.
So the pre-wounds, like the Magna Glide bobbins and any of your pre-wounds, have some kind of a stickum that holds the thread on, especially the ones that have no cardboard on the side.
Right.
The Magna Glide ones have something that sticks that together. Otherwise, glide thread just slides all over the place, and you wouldn't have a bobbin at all. Those I do not, with the M, I do not put that through the pigtail when I'm checking it with the gauge. I omit the pigtail because there's too much tension on it with the pigtail, and I just run it straight over through the other part here, the pulleys. Yeah. All right, now we're going to test this.
I have a question.
Yep.
Yes.
Does it matter if the bobbin case is warm or cold?
Yes, it does. It does.
Can you
So-
just repeat the question in your?
Okay, so the question is, does it matter if your bobbin case is warm or cold? And the answer is yes. Now, Scott might disagree with me,
I don't.
but anyway, when anything warms up, the metal expands. When metal warms, it expands. So that means that this little tension spring here is also going to expand, which would give a little more space, should give a little more space maybe between the pieces here. If you did it cold and the space is different than it is when it's warm, and you put it in the toa gauge, it's going to give you a different reading. So my suggestion is warming up your machine for about 5 minutes And on the new machines, there's a
Yep, so on the new machine, I'll just tell you real quick. On the new machines, if you're in manual mode, which is where I recommend you be, take the bobbin case out, take the bobbin out of the bobbin case, put the bobbin case back in. If you're in manual mode, you touch the green button, it starts stitching, you will get 5 minutes. It's built into the software. Every touch of the green button and you don't do anything, it'll run for 5 minutes. So you choose whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. You don't need to run it more than 10, but you know, personal preference. So
warming up the bobbin case, put the empty bobbin case back in to the machine. Sometimes I put the bobbin in my pocket to warm it up. But yes, you will get a different tension reading on it from a cold case versus a warm case. What I've found over the years is if I warm up my bobbin case as I'm warming up the machine, then go right to adjusting my tension, I don't have to continually tweak for the next 10 minutes until it does get warm. I can start out much sooner with my balanced stitch and just go to quilting and not continually be checking and making sure that I'm getting a good stitch. So yes, like this. So let's check this. This has dropped down now from basically off the scale to 250. So I can stand it up and I can pull it out and I can almost lift that right off my hand just a little bit. But there we go.
there you go.
Yeah, just like that. And that's what it should be. You can pull the thread out. I can almost pick it up if it catches on the spring there, but the thread comes out easily as I do that. And that should be what you should be looking for when you when your tension on your case is the way it is. And the reason I went to the TOA gauge years ago was because I was spending a lot of time, maybe 20 minutes, thinking in my head, okay, so I've got this happening on the top, this on the bottom. Does that mean, do I tighten the top? Do I tighten the bottom? I kept trying to think, what is the best way to do it? So when I got all done with it, maybe I had way too much tension on the bobbin case, more than I should have, or maybe the top was tightened way too tight and I shouldn't have, and I could be breaking thread on the top because that was too tight. By using a gauge and setting it the same on everything, you take away that frustration, you take away that guessing of, what do I do, and basically just go right to it. This is set right, and then you just tweak your top to get your balanced stitch. So her suggestion was, she made a little label that she put right on the TOA gauge so that she always knew what that setting was, so that she didn't have to try and remember that number. So the number that I'm recommending is kind of a base number. Every machine is going to be a little bit different.
Yep.
So you start with that and you can tweak it up or tweak it down for whatever works best, and then write that number down.
Well,
So if you go online, you're going like, oh, that Quilting bobbin case, that's too expensive. I'll just go online and buy one. Well, for one thing, a lot of companies don't have a piggy tail on them. These are specific ones that Quilting uses because it centers the thread under it. So just as an aside, one of the brands of machines out there turns their hook assembly so that when the thread comes out, this isn't even in with the door horizontal. It's in kind of cocked like that. So they're trying to take care of the issue by changing the positioning of their hook assembly. So buying a different kind of bobbin case isn't you may pay less, but you probably won't get the same results with your stitching.
Right.
Is that the same thing for bobbins too?
Yes, I would say for the bobbins too. The bobbins that Quilting uses have a lot of holes in them. Many of the ones that you see out there have fewer number of holes.
Or no.
And
Yeah, there's L bobbins that don't have holes. They've got a little notch on the inner diameter on both sides, and all that notch is for the bobbin winder. But I don't like those bobbins as far as being non-problematic. The L bobbins that we carry standard are solid one side, holes on the other. I recommend those. Our M bobbins, holes on both sides, I also recommend those.
Right.
I stitch a lot with a lot of machines.
Yep.
One quick thing, L bobbins. I'm sure there's probably people in here that use the pre-wounds in their L bobbins. So you may or may not want to take the backlash spring out of your L bobbin case. If you buy the pre-wounds that are a mag core, that's got a magnetic tube in there, that functions as the backlash spring, but that spring on the backside sometimes will cause a lot of issues in the quality of the stitch, and you may want to take that out. I do recommend for people that switch back and forth, have 2 bobbin cases, one with a backlash spring, one without, so that you're set up to use whichever you prefer on that day.
And I recommend the same for an M bobbin. If you're finding that it runs better without that spring in, you can put the spring in and out, but it's a pain to do that. And that little screw is so tiny.
It's tiny.
It's awful. So just buy a second one, take the chuck spring out of it, have 2. I've got 2.
Like the ones they sell out here, are those the magnetic ones?
Yes. Just make sure it says MAG in the name, M-A-G.
Yeah, one side of the core is black on it. That's the side that goes in.
Well, it's because it needs to come off.
Yep,
like
because it
this.
comes off there, right? That way, yeah. It's magnetic, yes.
That you're talking about inside the L bottoms, are they supposed to lay flat, or how would you know if it's worn out, or would you start seeing bird nests under your?
Yeah, they actually puff out a little bit.
Okay.
So if it's jammed in there flat tight against the back side of it, it's not doing its job.
You should just.
There should be a little, you should see it out just a little bit. Yeah.
On the L bobbin cases, and they're not all this way, this one happens to be that way, and most of the ones we sell are, you can adjust the tension on the